If you've tried all the standard self-help stuff, you tried the spiritual kind of things that people talk about, like manifesting and sticking your finger in your belly button and praying, all these kind of things. If you've tried it all and you feel stuck and nothing has really changed, then it's probably because you're asking God, life, truth, whatever word you want to use, you're asking it to help you to be something that you're not. This video is basically about why that strategy never works. Because life is never, ever, ever going to assist you in being something that you're not. In fact, trying to be something that you're not is what causes all the friction and frustration and misery that makes it seem like life is working against you. So I'm going to show you some stuff you can do that actually works to align you with reality and take your ego, which is the opposite of reality, out of the driver's seat. So I'm in this very windy, rocky, grassy landscape today. Thought I'd show you that before I continue with my musings. I'm gonna walk over to this tower on the horizon. Might see some more cool shit along the way. Here's a bog. It's all happening, people. A very common mistake that a lot of us make when we're on these healing journeys in life is that we confuse growth with escape. We think we're growing because we set goals for ourselves and we're doing our shadow work and all this stuff, but really we're not growing into more of ourselves. We're trying to escape who we think we are because we picked up shame and we become disconnected from ourselves and the truth. Growth means that you grow in a foundation of something that's already there. It doesn't mean that you replace yourself completely with some conceptual idea or thing that has no connection to who you really are in your essence. Normally what happens for people is they pick up shame in childhood and then they spend their whole lives trying to outrun it and calling that growth. But that just opens up a void and you'll never get where you want to be if you do that, because where you want to be really, whether you know it or not, is connected to your realness. And so it's not about outrunning the shame and escaping it behind all kinds of fancy goals and things like this. It's about getting in touch with your essence and then learning to express it in a real way through real action. Well, I've made it to the first tower. I say first because there's actually two towers. It's very exciting. I'm going to get closer to this one and say something pseudo profound, but it is kind of cool that somebody built this. Well, it's windy as fuck up here, but I feel alive, I guess. One thing that confuses a lot of people on their healing journeys is they realize that they need to make some changes and then they need to grow. They realize they don't feel good, they're not in the flow, all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna fall down here. Look at it. I'm gonna break my neck, I'm gonna die, and for what? A YouTube video. Anyway, they realize they need to make some changes and that they need to start working on themselves, growing. But because they're trying to outgrow their shame, which is always the core problem, and the effects of that shame, they end up filtering the healing journey through the shame. And so they end up in this weird position where they know they need to heal, which basically just means return to wholeness, but their approach to healing is informed by the shame and not wholeness and an understanding of what it means to be real. And so what this means is that they're perfectionistic about their healing journey. They feel like they have to get to this place where they're 100% healed, everything's fine, they have no problems ever again. They feel like they have to rush the process because they want to heal right now. They feel like they have to do more work than anybody else to prove something. So they spend all their time doing shadow work or whatever. And so they just end up in this weird position where they know that they're trying to heal, but the way that they go about their healing is actually just leaving them stuck. And so one thing that I want to leave you with is just this idea that it goes against the way that life is. Fuck. Well, another view of the tower. I finished that last shot with a fuck because I ran out of words, which is quite rare. But what I'm trying to say is that life works a certain way. Life is a certain way. You are what you are. It is what it is. And this is why one of the most real things we can ever say to ourselves is, I am what I am, and it is what it is. If we go against that, then we start to cause problems for ourselves. And the only reason we would go against that is because we picked up shame that causes us to judge ourselves on life and to take ourselves out of the flow. Once we know this, then we can start to return to the flow in a real way, which is what healing is. Just putting yourself back on the path that you were supposed to be on. The path that is yours to walk, instead of the path that you think you should walk because of how your shame has made you feel like you need to compensate or try and be something you're not, or something like that. Anytime you take yourself away from that path, which means that you're judging yourself, you're judging life, you forget that you are what you are and that it is what it is. Anytime you do that, you create problems for yourself. And if we set goals for ourselves and try to create a future rooted in that shame instead of rooted in our realness, then everything that we do will not really work out. And if it does work out by some miracle and we end up getting something that we're not ready for, then we're just going to lose it and it's going to destroy our lives anyway, because it was something that came from shame rather than something real. And if it came from shame instead of something real, then it's destined to slip between your fingers so that you can wake up and see where you were supposed to be in the first place. Essentially, a lot of the things that we do because we think we're trying to heal ourselves or improve our lives are just an extension of the void. The void, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, is the world we end up living in, or the state we end up living in, when we become disconnected from the truth. It normally happens in childhood. Somebody judges us, we internalize the judgment, and then we become disconnected from very real parts of ourselves that we feel we need to send into exile, and they go hiding in the shadow self. The reason that they go hiding in the shadow self is because we put a mask on that by the time we reach adulthood we forget we were wearing. And so that mask is really just an extension of the shame that I keep talking about, but it sets out goals for us, and it sets the way that we feel like we need to heal because we think we are the mask. And so really the only way to start healing in a truthful, real way that's actually going to help you and get results is to start taking the mask off, seeing what's going on beneath the surface, regulating, integrating, and then accelerating by taking real action on a foundation of something real instead of a reaction to all the unreal things that we think we went through. A really common trap I've seen people fall into when they're filtering their healing / growth journeys through their shame is that they never end the journey. They never get to a point where they feel like they've done enough healing. Instead, they're always focused on what more healing they need to do. And so they go looking for more pain, more memories they need dragging up and exploring. And it's almost like their shame causes them to latch on at the level of identity to the idea of healing. And so they always just have to do one more little bit of shadow work, one more little bit of I don't know, somatic this or somatic that, whatever it is. They're just constantly looking for more pain, because diving into the pain in this shame driven way becomes their new purpose in life. it's almost like they feel like the pain excavation process is the whole point. But actually what you want to do is get to the point where you've faced enough of the pain to be able to dissolve the underlying emotional blocks and things like that. But then to realize, okay, you don't have to be perfectionistic about it. You don't need to fix yourself completely, because that's impossible. But you can just get to the point where you know enough and you accept enough for you to be able to do whatever you really want to be doing from that grounded place instead of the shame-driven place. And so eventually you have to let go. The reason I'm saying all this is because we get stuck in these excavation cycles when we think that life is going to allow us to be something we're not. That it's going to allow us to be perfect in this case, or that it's going to allow us to be complete, or it's going to allow us to never have any problems again. Life can never be like that, because we're all in these fragmented bodies on a windy, fragmented planet, and only if you understand that can you accept that it's about becoming comfortable with the incompleteness, and that we've all got illusions, we're all holding ourselves back with limiting beliefs and things like this, but we can accept that that's the terrain we're dealing with and just play with life instead of trying to force ourselves on it and to fix things and make everything perfect. All those ideas of certainty and control and perfection are just the ego, and the ego is always a reaction to shame. And so what we really want to be doing is putting ourselves in a place where we can work with life on life's terms, the way that it's been designed, so to speak, instead of trying to put our design on it. That's what this is all about. Life will never help you to be something that you're not, or to shape life into being something that is not. But it will always help you if you work to accept and then build from there. There's some more cool rocks for everyone that's into rocks. The short version of all this is that the only way to heal is to return to what you are and to overcome the effects of shame. God, life, truth will support you in that, because life wants you to be what you are. In fact, it's not even about what life wants. It's just that you either are what you are or you're not. If you try to heal yourself in an attempt to become something that you're not, because you're filtering the healing process through the ego, then you're never going to get there. And so it's about understanding that the healing process is not about being perfect. It's not about rushing or any of these things. It's just about doing what needs doing, trusting what needs to be trusted, and then letting go and seeing where you end up. Well, here's the second tower. I'm gonna go up this one. So this is terribly exciting. This is probably the worst place to make a video though, because it's so windy, but it does look good. Well, here we are. This is kind of a good metaphor in a way for what I'm talking about, because it's not about replacing something, it's about building something on the foundation that's already there, something like that. So I'm going to go up there for dramatic reasons, and then I'll continue to rant and rave at you. Well, this is what the top of the tower looks like. It's windy as fuck. I had to climb up this stairs, if you can even call it that. There's shit blowing in my face. This is a nightmare. The things I do for these YouTube videos, it's rather admirable, if I do say so myself. But anyway, show you the view again. This tower is kind of a metaphor. I'm gonna run with it. If you build, you can ascend. But if you try and replace, or you try and escape from life and be something other than what you are, don't build on the foundations, your real essence, then it's all gonna be for nothing, and the view is kind of gonna suck. Something like that. It's windy, I'm leaving this place. The long and short of all this is that life will support you, God will support you, the truth will support you to be a deeper expression of what you really are. If you're trying to take actions as a way of continuing to escape that expression because of shame, guilt, trauma, but mainly shame, then things are always going to feel a little bit off. There's always going to be that friction, that restless feeling of the void. You're going to try and take the pain away or the frustration away with things in the world that you get addicted to, like shopping or sex or alcohol or whatever. And this is what's going on all around us. If you look, people are trying to escape from themselves because they don't want to push through the pain and get to a point where they feel like they've done enough work. You don't have to be perfectionistic, you don't have to heal all the way, but you do have to be whatever it is that you are, so you can do something that's aligned with who you came here to be. When I'm working with my coaching clients, I always take them through a process of awareness, acceptance, and action. Awareness is becoming aware of your own ego stuff, who you think you need to be because of the shame and all that stuff. Acceptance is integrating the shadow so you can become whole again and accept all of the things about life, good and bad, but still real. And action is taking aligned action. In the last video I talked about regulate, integrate, accelerate. This is basically the same thing. Regulate means you calm down, you slow down the nervous system so you know who you really are. When you're not running around in panic mode because of the shame and underlying nervous system dysregulation. Integrate, face the emotions, accelerate, start taking real action. When you do that, you put yourself in touch with your essence, and then the expression that you give to the world is something that's much more aligned with who you're supposed to be, who you actually are. When you do that, life works with you. And this is why it always comes down to trust. Because if you do your best and let go of the rest, which means you trust yourself and then trust life, then you can keep moving and evolving and growing without needing to know everything or force everything. Shame makes us try to control life. Realness and acceptance allows us to work with it, which means that we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to be fully healed. We don't need to be anything other than whatever life has made us to be. And then building a tower. I can't see the tower. I thought that was going to be a badass shot. It's over there somewhere. But then building a tower on top of the foundation that's been given to us. That's how you live your real life. And you can get where you want to be without friction, frustration, and misery. This is the bog you end up in if you go against life. Not really, and I'm sure I used that metaphor in another video with a different bog. I see a lot of bogs, it seems. Understanding a lot of this stuff that I'm rambling about becomes a lot easier if you understand the difference between fate and destiny. Fate is basically the cards that you've been dealt. The country you were born in, the body you got, the genetics, all that stuff, the things you can't change about life. But your destiny is what you decide to do with the cards that you've been dealt. Over time, your life becomes the sum total of all the choices that you've made. That's your destiny. And if your destiny is not aligned with who you really are and what you really want from life, in your essence, when you're not coming from that shame-driven place, if your destiny is not a product of that, then you're always going to feel like something's missing. And so really a big part of all this stuff that I'm talking about is accepting your fate, but then making sure that the choices you make for what to do with your life are not about running away from all of the unreal things that shame has made you believe about yourself, but that you run towards something real, a deeper expression of your own realness and how you can give it to the world through real action. The long and short of all this is that giving of your essence, your realness, instead of hiding it because of shame, is how you're going to get life to work with you. Life wants you to just accept what is, so you can say to yourself, I am what I am, and it is what it is. And when you get to that point, you'll see that you don't need to be perfect to be healed. You don't need to rush anything. You can just work with life by continuing to give what you found in yourself to give. When you do that, the actions that you take are going to be more real. They're going to be more aligned. You're going to keep growing in a healthy way where you're building on that foundation, and you're going to keep flowing instead of hitting roadblocks because you're not focused on giving but on getting. When we're coming from a shame-driven place, that's the main thing that we think about. What can I get? What can I get from this healing process? What can I get from these interactions with people? I'm literally walking on a bog again. I'm gonna die. I always say this in these videos, haven't died yet. I should probably stop saying that though. But anyway, you get to the point where you say to yourself, right, what can I give? And you find actually that the only reason to do the healing work isn't for you, as weird as that might sound. You'll feel better when you get to the other side of it because you get to a place of acceptance. But actually the realest reason to work on yourself is so you have something real to give to others. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters, and it's the only rock to stand on. Something like that. Peace.